Welcome back. It is Tuesday, and it's a good-looking Tuesday at that. And speaking of good-looking, there's Chronic Hoosier joining us. How are you, sir?
Doing well as always. Glad to be back.
Absolutely. Appreciate you joining us. As always, brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, of course. Lots to talk about, really, because um, well, we've got AAU that's been going on, all the IU recruits. Indiana doing, I think a pretty good job recruiting. Brian Walsh, the young guy that just got moved up to coach. His name is on almost every recruit's lips. He's out there just doing. I feel sorry for a coach in that level, only because I know what they're probably going through as far as a lifestyle right now, Chronic.
Yeah, it's you guys talk about the grind. Um this is the grind season. I mean, quite honestly. These guys are in gyms perpetually, be it their own or out recruiting. But during this part of the calendar, when you've got tournaments all over the country happening simultaneously, those guys are just absolutely racking up the frequent flyer miles, getting their hotel points and everything along the way. It's unrelenting. It's amazing when you see exactly how much ground these guys cover, how many contacts they're making on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, it's all about making those contacts. It's all about building, developing, nurturing relationships, in figuring out the best fit for the program, and for the recruits and their families and everything. So it's in full swing right now, no doubt. We probably still a little bit away from seeing some of the fruits of these labors. But the one thing that is certainly heartening to see, just the level of talent that Indiana's in on, the connections that are publicly available, or at least known publicly right now. Indiana's absolutely doing the work, and getting, maintaining a lot of interest in the program. And I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it till I'm blue in the face. This really is a critical year for as far as the program goes, in terms of recruiting. Mike Woodson able to bring in a hell of a class this year. But the key, ask Tom Allen, ask any coach in the country, is you got to maintain that momentum. You got to build upon your past success and continue to climb a little bit higher up each year. And it starts with talent. Obviously you got to develop it when it gets on campus. You got to find cohesiveness among the locker room. But at the end of the day, man, it's a game of talent. And Indiana seems to be in the mix for quite a bit of it right now. So look forward to getting some of these guys on campus, seeing them out and about, and seeing what fits seem to make the most sense for these guys as the commitments start to come.
Yeah, and there's no point. I'm not predicting who's next to commit and all that stuff, because that's crazy and silly to try to guess that stuff. But like you said, Indiana they're in just great position. I no matter what, they're going to come out, I think, in a great position after following the class they had last year. I think they're going to get yet another solid class. And then, the class after that is going to be a special class. And I hate putting the cart before the horse, because that I don't do that, but I'm just looking down the talent in the state that we have right now, these AAU circuits that we're following. These guys like Trent Sisley, who was just a freshman last year, and Jalen Harrison was just a freshman last year. And I go watch these guys, and they look like they just finished their freshman year in college. It's mind-boggling, but Indiana is. It's weird, and I don't mean I hate doing this kind of stuff, but man, I think Mike Woodson is going to have County Indiana at that talent that Bob Knight was in those 70s and at that era. And that's high praise. And I'm not saying he's got the next Scott May and Quinn Buckner and all that stuff, but that constant churn of talent, I think that's what's coming, Chronic.
There are several axioms that are certainly in play here. One of which is success breeds success, and talent attracts talent. And listening to the freshmen who were just made available to the media for the first time last week since they arrived on campus, listening to some of their insights, some of their observations after their first month or so on campus. One thing that stands out, aside from just how mature those guys seemed in their talk, was just how openly they are embracing the competition. And we've said that several times in the past before. When you raise the talent level on your roster from top to bottom, you're raising your competitiveness. And when you find guys that are bought into that competition, that aren't afraid to come into a situation where nothing's been promised, nothing is given up front. You have to come in and you have to earn it. And the way that just brings everybody's levels up. That's a powerful thing. That's an absolutely powerful thing. So when you do that, now that you've raised that level, the next class that comes in to visit, they see that higher level of competition. And that's going to turn some off, that's going to attract some. But that's really the critical element in the recruiting, is finding the right pieces to fit your particular program, the particular positions you're looking to fill. So, when these guys come in campus on their visits and, they get to do a little bit of run in an open gym setup, it really shows them what to expect when they get on there. And those guys that see that high level of competition that they believe is going to be able to compete at the highest levels, that's going to be able to compete for conference championships, it's going to be able to compete in the NCAA tournament. That's going to be highly attractive to some of these guys. And that's exactly what you want to see. I mean, quite honestly, and that's how you build the program. And it's certainly not been a ground up. But Mike Woodson has been able to cover a lot of ground in a really, really short period of time, as far as how he's building the roster, the talent he's been able to amass. And I think you have to go back to that very first meeting on campus with his current roster, and the way he was able to form those connections, keeping Trace Jackson Davis on campus, convincing Race Thompson that it was worth his while to come back for another year, and all the way on down the line. He really laid a foundation as far as talent, as far as commitment to the competition, that will continue hopefully to pay dividends for years to come. All that said, though, it can be such a fleeting thing if you're not careful, and it becomes more difficult for a new coach the longer you go in. When the expectation doesn't necessarily match up with the reality of it. So I think you put a strong emphasis on those early efforts in order to establish that baseline, that foundation, that the program is going to build upon. But right now, it certainly seems all signs point to exactly the direction you want to see the program heading. And on a personal level, when you see guys like Gabe Cupps throwing the oops to Bronny, or working out with Braun, at least personally, again, it makes me pretty giddy for the future of Indiana basketball.
Well, it does, because that's something that Indiana has not had for years, and that's what I call star power. You don't see stars, or which I know that it's Bloomington, not a big city, but you still don't see these big time non-IU people showing up. And to see those guys, an Indiana player interacting with someone of that caliber, a superstar like that, that gives that next recruit, or the 2 years down the road, like, dude from IU's playing with LeBron, man. So yeah, they see that, and that carries over, because they know that those are the opportunities that they can get by going to a school like Indiana. I mean, Indiana is not the only place, obviously. Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, those places are the same, but Indiana is one of those places, and it has to be there, though, be back there, which it is headed. And that's going to be fun, because college basketball is just fun when Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, Indiana, those teams are all good. Man, people want to see that. And I can't wait. I'm excited. I mean, that game at the Fog this year, that's going to be an absolute pandemonium meltdown place. And I cannot wait.
No, and I think it's, when you look at the totality of it, as far as bringing the program back to the elite echelon of college basketball teams, there's an aura around certain programs, and Indiana has certainly faded over the years. Part of it, there just hasn't been a lot of consistency, a lot of stability in the program, even when it's achieved its highs. You think about the Big Ten championship teams of late, the 16, the 13 team. The ability to sustain that once you've flown at that elevation, once you've reached those levels of success, just how difficult it is to maintain that. You look at from a recruiting standpoint, when Tom Crean brought in Juwan Morgan, Thomas Bryant, OG, arguably one of the greatest recruiting classes in the modern era of Indiana basketball. Uh, look what followed that. It's one thing to be able to attract NBA caliber talent, but recognizing it's only going to be here for a finite amount of time, and the greater the talent, the shorter the time usually. So to be able to bring in a class like they have this year, you cannot repeat some of those mistakes of the past and then turn around and have duds, classes that just don't deliver in the following years. So, this is one of those things where if history is a guide, there's guarded optimism, at least on my part. You love to see it, but you've got to continue to maintain that level. Because in this day and age, with players being able to transfer with, we've always previously just looked at the NBA opportunities. Well, now these guys can go play anywhere in the country. They can go, they can go to Europe. They have so many more options available to them. And with the influx of NIL dollars and the way that can sway opinions, it really, really opens up a whole nother layer of pitfalls in the path of building these programs. So it's just going to be a heightened importance on building those relationships, maintaining them throughout the life cycle of the player's development, from the recruit to the signee to the freshman and so on, because every year you're basically having to re-recruit your own team on top of your inbound players, your future classes. So it's something we've never seen before. Nobody's ever seen it before, at least not at the college level, because these circumstances haven't existed. So I'm going to be fascinated to see how Mike Woodson manages that and continues to to build towards whatever the goal is that he set for himself, for the program, and for his players going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. For football, not that far away either, man. It's around the corner. Big Ten Media Days, just a couple of weeks from now, in July. I think it's like the 26th, 27th, something like that, up at Lucas Oil Stadium. Looking forward to that. We'll be up there doing the show live for this season as the football season gets kicked off. Man, it's unknowns, man. All I can say is it's unknown this year for football.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, you want to talk about creeping up on you. I've got a birthday coming up next week, and
5-0.
No, don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you do it. Do not do that. No. My gray hairs may give me away a little bit here, but
Well, I didn't think, but when you said it's big, I was like, wow.
We're not quite there yet, but no, my wife's asking me what I want to do, and I pull up the calendar, and hell, my boy's got football camp starting next week. It's already here. Summer is already almost gone. And, I'm barely just breaking it in, it feels like. And now we're staring at the end of those free days right now. So it's one of the great curses of living in this town. Is as wonderful as B-Town summer is, man, it's so fleeting. It goes by so quickly. But no, it's here. We're on the cusp of it. I guess we're still almost, a little less than 2 months away from the first official game. But with fall camp coming right around the corner, media day coming right around the corner, I wish I could tell you what to expect from this football team. I don't know. I'm kind of reserving a lot of my words and my judgment. As much as IU missed expectations last year, I think you see just how fragile success can be for a program situated like Indiana football. But I also think that the very same forces that enabled them to fly as high as they did 2 seasons ago. Much, maybe not all, probably a diminished amount of that with the coaching turnovers, with the roster turnovers. But I do still think there's some magic left in Indiana football, and I think this is going to be a great opportunity for Tom Allen and his team to go into a season with the exact opposite. From a pressure standpoint, from an expectation standpoint, that they dealt with last season, because as we saw, the weight of those expectations can be crushing for a program that's as precariously positioned as Indiana is. Because as you talk about talent and just how critically important that is in building a program, it's just magnified in football because you have so many more positions, because the depth chart, the number of players it takes to round out that depth chart becomes so exponentially greater. It just raises the degree of difficulty across the board. And then, when you look at the skill position, particularly quarterback, running back, and all the way on down the line, wide receiver, defensive backs, linebackers, Indiana's got a whole lot it's got to fix if it's going to have success this year. And I think it's been a rude awakening for a lot of Indiana fans. And I don't mean to throw a blanket over all the fans, because there's a lot of them. I think the majority of them are probably like me, who have spent a long time watching the program and know exactly how precarious the path to success in the Big Ten, particularly the Big Ten East, is for smaller teams like Indiana. There's a lot of folks that got on board here recently, or maybe that had been on board before, but started paying more attention as the years have gone on here, and the profile has raised a little bit. That's the nature of Indiana football. That's the difficulty of Indiana football. Those things are never going away. They're probably just going to exacerbate in the NIL era. When you talk about, $13 million a year to keep Ohio State functioning, where's Indiana going to come up with that? Well, with the new media rights contract that the Big Ten Network's negotiating right now, it's going to reveal a lot about a program's values, about their ambitions. And, I think Indiana is still well positioned to have success. But they're going to have to be shrewd about it. They're going to have to be shrewd about what choices they make, how they choose to invest it. I would probably recommend throwing a boatload of money in that pool for your assistant coaches, because there's just so many moving pieces to running a football program and to building one. You got to have the top guys on board, and if we're going to be a part of one of the what ultimately looks like the top 2 conferences in the land, you better be prepared to compete in those arms races. And it's all well and good to find those diamonds in the rough, those up and coming guys. But as Indiana has seen over the years, just as soon as they exceed expectations, now they've got an offer sheet in front of them coming from a number of different programs, and you better be willing to compete if you hope to retain that. Because otherwise you find yourself back in the cycle where you're constantly having to rehire. And it's not just the hiring, it's your restarting relationships, both within the staff, within your roster, within your recruits. And that can put you to disadvantage. And Indiana has suffered that quite a bit here lately. So I'll be real interested to see how they navigate those waters as these additional monies start flowing in. And as the conference continues to grow. But these are changing times, and the one thing we've seen is you better be willing to adapt, and you better be willing to do it quickly, or else you're going to get left in the dust.
Yeah, I have failed on trying to get my NIL deal signed up. Chronic, not happened yet.
Yeah, that makes 2 of us. That makes 2 of us. It's been funny to see. I think about Kentucky, and I don't follow a whole lot of Kentucky media, but just due to our proximity, a lot of it bleeds into my reading lists. And for a program that you were just talking about, they've got a $2 million NIL deal for one of their basketball players. Listen to the Kentucky fans bemoaning their program's efforts as it relates to football and NIL. And the parallels that can be drawn between Indiana and Kentucky on those fronts, and it's absolutely fascinating to me, because as much as these fan bases such as ours just desperately pine for a consistently competitive team in these conferences, this is where the rubber meets the road, and you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is. And for a team that's situated like Indiana, that has the the limited capacity for revenue generation compared to schools like Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. It's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, how the new BTN money kind of levels that playing field, but also maybe expand some of those gaps between the haves and the have-nots.
Absolutely. Chronic Hoosier, I look forward to it each and every week, man. I hope you have a great rest of your week. It looks like it's going to be an absolute gorgeous one.
Yeah, we're going to soak up every drop of it while we got it.
Appreciate you, brother. Have a great rest of your day.
Hey, thanks for having me. Take care.